Welcome everybody to Down the Middle. This podcast is brought to you by OMG CBD, which can help you out with all of your CBD and OMG needs. We'll talk about them more a little bit later, but right now, along with our triumphant return on our new night,
Thursdays.
yeah, this is going to be a lot better.
Here's my thing. Thursdays is easier for me because
It
my
is for me
Mondays,
now too, yeah, but
my Mondays or my Sundays are my Mondays for my work week, and it made it easier going in. But it also made it rougher because my Mondays and Fridays are the complete worst at work.
I can see that.
Well, tonight's my Friday, but I got a little more sleep than I usually do, so I'm okay right now.
That explains your chipper, go get 'em attitude.
With that, and I'm about to drink a Rockstar.
Oh, well, that too. But first, before we get into All In, I want to run something by you. Do you think, because we're still doing every other week, but on Thursdays now, so keep that. You should already have notifications enabled if you subscribe anyway, and if you haven't subscribed, you definitely should, because we're awesome. But so we're on Thursdays now, every other Thursday. But my question to you is, do you think in the next 2 weeks you will be able to watch the Iron Claw?
Where is it going to be?
It's going to be in theaters.
Just in theaters?
I don't know if it's streaming. It's A24, so I'm not sure.
Well, I thought I seen something that it was going to be on Max.
Maybe it probably will be. I'm not sure when. I don't know if they're doing a dual release. I'm going to go watch it in the theater, but I thought it would be really fun to kind of merge wrestling and movies a bit, because we normally don't talk about movies on this podcast, but since it's about wrestling,
I've heard nothing but good about the movie so far.
Dude, it looks A24 has just been amazing. I haven't seen a movie of theirs yet that was bad. I'm not saying they haven't made any, but from what I've seen, everything's been like an 8.5 or higher.
Let me get back with you. Maybe we work something out where we both go at the same time.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
We can have a little date. Oh no, sorry.
Looking a little like Chuck over there.
All right, Palumbo.
Actually, which one of us? I guess you would be Chuck Palumbo. I think your hair's slightly darker than mine. Or do you ride a?
Yours is actually darker than mine.
Huh. But I don't ride a motorcycle.
Neither do I.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's up in the air. Okay, I'll be Chuck. Whatever. It's all a work anyway. But yeah, so we tentatively might be covering the Iron Claw in our next episode. So stay tuned. We'll make an announcement. I really, really want to, but if you can't watch it in 2 weeks, then we can't talk about it in 2 weeks. So anyhow.
Let me get back with you.
Okay. But the other funny thing is, this is hilarious. There's two things I've noticed about every trailer that I've seen for it. The fact that they got the smallest guy to play Kerry Von Erich, who was like the biggest one. I don't know if he was the tallest, but he was the most jacked of the four brothers.
Yeah, I did notice that one.
Yeah, because at first I was like, wait, he's Kerry? Like, don't get me wrong, they all look phenomenal. I totally thought that Zac Efron was Kerry just from the build, but then I saw him without the shoes, and I'm like, wait, no, that's Kevin. I was confused. But I will say this. I found it very funny that with the exception of, I forget the actor's name, but the exception of the actor that's playing Kerry Von Erich, they all look the same from the neck down, but none of them look the same in the face. Not a one. There's not a dead ringer in the bunch.
I did just find out tonight, and then I didn't know it, that Chavo is the one that actually trained them.
Not only that, MJF was involved somehow. I think he was... I can't remember how, but Chavo also plays the Iron Sheik in the movie, so that's going to be fun.
He's playing the Iron Sheik.
He's playing the Iron Sheik.
But he's not built like the Iron Sheik.
welcome to this movie. Because honestly, with the exception of Zac Efron, everybody's a little bit smaller than they should be. I'm not trying to take away from what the actors accomplished because they all look phenomenal, but they're just not that big.
But that's like a giant range. That's like
I know, that's what I'm saying.
that's like trying to have Rey Mysterio play the Big Show.
I know, I'm not cutting them up. I'm just saying that it is what it is. But I noticed specifically with Carrie Von Erich, I was like, I don't know. But anyway, but the other funny thing I noticed is virtually in every trailer, they're either wrestling or eating. It's one of the two.
You know, now that you actually say that, I kind of agree with you.
And this is just me. This is why I noticed that. The sound of people chewing is nails on a chalkboard for me. So whenever there's a scene in a movie, and food commercials are the worst because they're like, we want you to hear the crunch. When somebody's chewing and it's crunching, that's nails on a chalkboard for me. It's awful. But every scene in this movie, they're like, not only are they eating, but they're talking while they're eating. So it's like, well, you can all rise up in the rankings. And I'm like, oh. So I noticed it. So that'll be fun. That'll be a fun experience in the theater. But
now I know what kind of videos to send you.
Oh, please don't. But anyway, other than that, the movie looks phenomenal.
Like I said, I've heard nothing but good about it.
And it looks like there's going to be a lot of wrestling scenes in it. So props to everybody because, as we're all aware, you really can't fake that. I mean, you can make it safer. There are things you can do. And since they're recording, you have the benefit of being able to do some more stunt work. But still, if there's a wide shot of a ring and people are wrestling, you can't fake that.
I don't know. Maybe we might break down them segments too.
I would imagine so. But anyway, speaking of segments, we're gonna jump into All In. Now, you said something before we went live that will make this very interesting because we're coming at this from two completely different perspectives. I was there, and I've seen it because after I went, I was curious about what it looked like on camera, so I watched it, and then we both watched it recently to kind of get it fresh in our minds. But you told me you'd never seen it in its entirety before.
Like I said, yeah, I've never seen it in its entirety. Like, I've seen like bits and pieces and clips like over the years, and like I knew the whole Cody Nick Aldis thing, and just a few things I knew from it, but I never fully watched it until last night.
So now that you've seen it in its entirety, do you agree with this? That it works much better as a show than individual matches? I shouldn't say better, but it's a very cohesive show is what I'm really getting at.
It was definitely well thought out.
I think that's a better way to put it. Yeah, they thought about what they were booking, how they were doing it, the match order. There's one match I disagree with, its placement, but everything else it all made sense.
Yeah, there was one match where I think it definitely should have been main.
Yeah, we know what match that is.
Like the main was good. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, but I don't think
it's not a main event.
A semi-main I'd have been okay with.
Semi-main I would have taken. Main event,
or even a start the show with that. Start it with a bang.
Start the main show, yeah, because there was, yeah. Well, it wasn't really. I guess it was. Yes, it was. There was a pre-show.
Two matches.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's why I didn't see it. I skipped a page. So so there's a funny story behind the pre-show. There wasn't going to be one, but WGN approached Cody and the Bucks, and I assume Ring of Honor, and basically asked them, can we do a pre-show? Because it was so random. All In 0 Hour was on WGN of all places. And so they made they made 2 pre-show matches to air on an hour of WGN to try to sell more of the pay. Even though it was sold out in person, they were trying to sell more pay-per-view buys. So that's where we're going to start actually. So let's start first with the commentary team for 0 Hour. We had Excalibur, Don Callis, and Ian Riccaboni. Now, I don't know what happened between here and AEW, but I don't love Excalibur on commentary, but honestly, he was good on at All In. I didn't have an issue with it.
I mean, I'm not big when it comes to commentary, really. I mean, I've always had my like couple of favorite people that does commentary. Like other than that, like commentary is just not a big thing for me.
It's
like commentary to me doesn't make or break a match for me.
It doesn't make or break a match, but I think honestly, bad commentary can break a show.
Agreeable. I do agree on that one.
Yeah, I think commentary, because let's be real, when we're watching wrestling on TV, with very few exceptions, and I shouldn't say nobody's really bad at it. There are just some commentators that aren't maybe not your cup of tea. Like, for example, I can't stand Michael Cole, but he's not a bad commentator. Otherwise, he wouldn't have worked at WWE for as long as he has. I don't particularly like Corey Graves, but I know a lot of people love Corey Graves.
I don't really like Corey Graves. I don't really care for. And one of the ones on SmackDown I don't care for. I don't know his name.
I don't really love any of the WWE commentators that are active now. But for example, this shows you how different strokes for different folks. Mauro Ranallo is one of my favorite commentators, period. And when he was in NXT and WWE, there were so many people that hated him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This guy makes us all sound legit. I think they didn't like his pun. I appreciated his puns.
My favorite commentator would probably have to be I'm blank now. ECW.
Joey Styles.
Yeah, Joey Styles.
I did like Joey Styles, but I preferred him when he had a color commentator.
Okay.
I think 2's kind of the magic number.
Yeah.
Sometimes a 3-man booth will work, but I think 2's the magic number because you have, like JR and the King for me will probably be my favorite combo. But I also really enjoy Joey Styles and Taz. They work well.
Even the commentary for TNA back in the day.
Mike Tenay was great. I have zero issue. Mike Tenay and Taz was good. Mike Tenay and Don West were good, even in the early days of TNA. It was really good. I think WWE just feels really cookie cutter now, but going back, Ian Riccaboni's phenomenal. Don Callis, I actually love Don Callis on commentary, especially when he's not working as a heel. When he's just doing straight commentary, I like him better, but he can do heel commentary. He's done it for decades.
Yeah.
And then Excalibur here is actually pretty good. I was going to say tolerable, but it's actually pretty good. But anyway, our first match of the pre-show sees SCU, for those who don't remember, Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, because yes, they used to be in a tag team together, versus the Briscoes, and I completely forgot about this match, and I was like, oh, the Briscoes. And then I have Rocky. Oh, yeah, okay. So SCU's ring gear, you basically have Scorpio Sky dressed as Apollo Creed from Rocky, and then I didn't notice this at the time, but it's so obvious. Kazarian's wearing Rocky's gear from the first Rocky, the Italian Stallion gear. So they're having some fun with it. And then, of course, the Briscoes come out as they usually are. Hang on, what? Okay, I didn't. Sorry, one of our podcasts uploaded some shorts today, and they're doing well. So I guess they decided to share that with me. But the match was fun, although I will say I remembered this a bit through rose-colored glasses. While it was nowhere near as much BS as we see in AEW now, there's still some moments that are kind of questionable psychology, but overall, it's a good match. It's a great opening match. The crowd's into SCU used to be able to get the crowd into it like no one else, It's so easy. SCU. The chants, all that good stuff, and who doesn't love the Briscoes? Did you have any thoughts on this one?
For being it my first time like seeing it, I mean the match meshed well. Everything worked. I didn't really, like you said, there were some spots that were like, but most of it worked out great. Like the finish was good. There was false pins. I mean, crowd was with it.
Yeah, and the funny thing and this is where they were smart in how they booked it. So everybody knew there really weren't, well, there was one heel in this match, not this match, this show, but everybody knew there really weren't any heels or faces. This was mostly because everybody was just very supportive. Everybody wanted to support this independent franchise. So you didn't really have any good guys or bad guys per se. Well, okay, there might have been two, which we'll get into later. But most of these matches are framed in like, this is competition, which was very, very popular at the time too. We've started to, and I know Jim Cornette has criticized this. He's like, we're both friends, but we're competing. I actually like that when it's done well and it's not hard to do it well. This was very popular at the time, especially in places like Ring of Honor and New Japan. Some of the best matches, frankly, were more competition and less heel babyface. Especially in New Japan, they did it so well. It wasn't, I'm mad at you. It was, who's better? And we're going to fight with everything we have. It's a New Japan thing that I love. They kill each other, and then after the match is over, they shake hands no matter who wins, who loses. Because everybody...
And in some perspectives, that's great.
When it's done well, when I find that when it's done well and both people are believable, it can be a really, really good thing to do.
A great match would be Hogan and The Rock.
But what's funny, so that happened organically because Hogan was supposed to be the heel.
Yes.
But the crowd wasn't having it. They weren't having it. And that's why it's such a great moment because, obviously there's just the image of it, but both of them are looking at each other like, the hell's going on? Like, I think they're cheering me, brother. It's like, all right, we're going to flip it then. But then they were also behind Rock, so.
Yeah, so it's like there was no happy medium, so they had to end up just cheering both of them.
Well, but then it's like, well, I guess we're getting him out of the NWO because they are not having this.
Pretty much right after that, he was out of the NWO.
I think I can't remember if I read it somewhere or if I'm just thinking it, but I think that was why they got him out of the NWO because after that match, they were like, he's a babyface now.
Nothing you can do now.
Yeah, the crowd has spoken. But anyway, SCU won this match, but it was nice to see the Briscoes again. You forget how good the Briscoes really were until you go back and watch any of their matches.
Well, I never seen much footage of the Briscoes. Like, I never really watched anything of the Briscoes. I never watched Ring of Honor when they were Ring of Honor. So, like, watching that match, I'm like, they're really underrated in my opinion.
They were criminally underrated. I never understood how. Now, I think, to be fair, I think Jim Cornette said something about this. It might have been because they didn't want to go anywhere but Ring of Honor, and they kind of have to be begged to do tours of Japan, like for the company. And I believe it. I believe that they were, content with what they were doing in Ring of Honor. So if that's the case, great. They should have been in WWE if they had wanted to.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see them again. Following this match, we had a promo from Kenny Omega. And my notes here, he's not good. He asked the questions and answered them. This was a terrible backstage segment. It was awful. It was cringe. And Kenny Omega basically interviewed himself. And do what?
That's the only way you can put it. He literally interviewed himself.
I mean, it was cringe. It was bad. So thankfully, it wasn't very long. Then we are treated to a promo featuring All In by Downstate, which is a kick-ass song written for the pay-per-view. Downstate has collaborated with WWE and several other wrestlers time and again, but song's awesome. It was perfect for this pay-per-view, which makes sense because it was written for this pay-per-view. But and then we have the second match, which this is so fun. This has the Young Bucks written all over it. Over the budget battle royal, the winner faces Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World title later in the show. The participants are Bully Ray, Billy Gunn, and we're going to play a little game here, which not out loud, but keep this in your mind, because a lot of people that were on this show are now big-time players in either WWE or AEW, but a lot of these people are in WWE now, and it's kind of funny. So we got Bully Ray, Billy Gunn, Marco Stunt, Chico El Luchador, he'll come into play later, Tommy Dreamer, Jordan Grace, who is now in Impact, or TNA, I guess it's TNA again, isn't it?
Well, not till January.
Well, I think they're calling it Impact TNA Wrestling. They're referring to it as TNA, but I don't think the new logo goes into effect until January. I think you're right. So, but it's okay. We're calling it TNA. Everybody called it TNA for years. Chuck Taylor, who Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, who we all know were in AEW. Ethan Page, who is now in AEW, but was he in Impact at the time? I think he was.
I think he was.
Yeah, he was part of the North, right? This was 2018.
Yeah.
With Josh Alexander, Rocky Romero, Colt Cabana, Brandon Cutler, Punishment Martinez.
Which I didn't realize that's who that was at first when I seen it. And I'm like, is that Damian Priest? And the only reason I noticed it is when he did the over the head with the arms, the clap. That's when I'm like, that's Damian Priest.
He bulked up a bit, let's be fair. Since then. He was always a big dude, but he's filled out a bit.
Hold on. Speaking about big dude, did you see AJ come back? Styles?
Yes.
That dude is freaking ripped. Like, I thought Randy was ripped when he came back at Survivor Series or SummerSlam or whatever it was. This last one, SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
War Games. Yeah. Survivor Series War Games.
When Randy came back, I thought he was ripped, but
he was.
And then I seen AJ, and I'm like,
fucking human growth hormone. But I think Randy's bigger, but I think the difference, AJ, like, holy shit. Like, but he's not just toned, he's bigger. Like, they're both fucking huge.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you meat gazer. Anyway, we also have Moose, Jimmy Jacobs, Brian Cage, Austin Gunn, Hurricane Helms, and I forgot this dude even existed, Cheeseburger. Yeah. I remembered this with rose-colored glasses. Remember that.
I just watched it yesterday, and I barely remember that name.
He's the little guy in the green, mostly. So I just have some notes here. Jimmy Jacobs at one point. So you have to, okay, so for those who don't remember, because there's some history here. Jimmy Jacobs worked for WWE for many, many years on the writing staff until Cody and the Bucks parodied the DX Invasion angle at a SmackDown taping for being the Elite, which, by the way, it's a hilarious episode. There's a crowd of people that formed organically, and they do the whole bit. Cody is speaking to the crowd on a megaphone and recites the speech of Independence Day, but nobody knows what he's doing until they realize what he's doing. Then the Bucks are like, is that the speech from Independence Day? So, but anyway, what you don't see is when they roll up to SmackDown, they actually do, like, get some attention. Jimmy Jacobs comes out and takes a picture with them, and it's great because Like their joke, Cody Southside, he's like, we're gonna take my last name back, that kind of which you have to remember, because also at the time, Cody was going by the American Nightmare Cody, because Cody Rhodes was technically trademarked by WWE. So he couldn't use his last name, which is hilarious now because now he's back in WWE, but I digress. One of the people, though, was Jimmy Jacobs, who not only took a photo with them, he shared it on social media and was fired over it.
Wow.
So then he went back to the independent wrestling circuit. So during this match, Jimmy Jacobs does the 5-knuckle shuffle.
I do remember seeing that.
That is why he did the 5-knuckle shuffle.
In his little tutu.
Yeah, Jimmy Jacobs is a weird dude. I was never a fan. It was weird. Apparently, he was good on the writing staff, though. A lot of people liked working with him, from what I was told. Oh, I don't know why I wrote it this way. Oh, now I do. Flip Gordon. Oh, actually, sorry. Chico El Luchador wins this match like a bitch because he is thrown out of the ring through the bottom rope very early and then just kneels in a corner until the thing's almost over. And then
you thought Bubba was going to win it.
Yeah, I totally thought Bubba was going to win it.
Like everybody thought he was.
Yeah. However, before we get into the ending, anything happened in this match that you want to mention?
When Hurricane Helms tried to chokeslam Bubba Ray.
Yeah, this is another match. I think I was actually getting this one confused with the Battle Royal at Double or Nothing, which I actually really enjoyed. This one had a lot more goofy spots, but did you also notice Tommy Dreamer's homage to Dusty with his pants?
The
polka dot pants. Yep. So that was cool. There was a lot of stuff that was dumb, but there was a lot of cool spots too. I will say almost everybody got a chance to shine in a good way. So
just about. Marco Stunt tried to go up to Bubba and start giving them chops, and then Bubba just throws him over the top.
And see, okay, so I'm going to give some praise here. That's how you can utilize somebody like Marco Stunt, because it's ridiculous. Bubba Ray should pick him up with one hand and throw him. However, Marco Stunt, they were doing this with Marco Stunt in the beginning, and then it got stupid. He would occasionally get some surprise offense in, and then the heel he was working would have the appropriate reaction of, that works. When you have him start convincingly beating people that have 100 pounds on him, that's when it starts getting bad, and that's why he's no longer with the company. But Chico El Luchador reveals himself to be Flip Gordon, which, okay, some of you may not remember Flip Gordon. At the time, he was very, very hot in Ring of Honor. Wasn't a world champion, but he was on his way up, and then nothing really happened. I think he got injured, and then it kind of fizzled out. I can't remember, but he was, well, I mean, he was in the championship picture, but he had just gotten there. He was kind of a hot act. Actually, you know what? I'm going to look up what he's doing now. Maybe he retired for all I know. Flip Gordon. Let's see. Okay, it's not listing much. The last thing it has is 2018 New Japan. Oh, no, he was in Ring of Honor until 2021. I guess he's just bouncing around the indies right now. Anyway, so Flip Gordon is going to face Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor title later in the show, which actually could have been a really good match, but the Young Bucks just couldn't help themselves, but we'll get to that. So now we start with All In, the main show. Opening match, a then unknown, except to MLW fans, MJF versus Matt Cross. So, just my notes real quick. In this, MJF is such a heel. And it's worth noting, MJF, as we knew him and loved him before he became, I don't know what he is now, soft, not an AEW creation. The MJF we got in AEW was the exact same as he was in this match. God, my penmanship is terrible. Oh, okay. Do you remember anything out of this match other than MJF just being a textbook heel and great?
Again, it was a first time scene for both of them. So it kind of helped me out with watching it because like me being able to see MJF now, that you could tell MJF was a little greener then.
Yeah. A little smaller then, too.
A lot smaller.
Yeah. But it shows how much he's grown and how good he truly is, because you got to remember, this was, God, 5 years ago.
Yeah, it would have been 5 years ago.
Yep. It seems like it wasn't that long ago, and at the same time, it feels like so much has happened since then.
Yeah,
But
and I enjoyed this match. It was one of my more favorite of the matches of the night.
you know what I really loved about it is it was simple. Like, and I don't mean, it was in a great way. MJF's the heel. Matt Cross is the baby face. Matt Cross wrestles like a baby face. MJF wrestles like a heel. He's disrespectful. Matt Cross gets the pin with a shooting star press, which makes perfect sense at this point in time because on the indies, people knew who Matt Cross was. Not everybody would have known who MJF was, and he was younger. But what's interesting, there are a lot of really prophetic moments in this show. Ian Riccaboni on commentary, maybe one day MJF's day will come.
Look at him now.
Yep. Not to take anything away from Matt Cross, I think he's still on the bouncing around the indies by choice. I think he loves the traveling schedule, but MJF is now the AEW World Champion, and I dare say maybe the best AEW World Champion we've ever had.
You know, at this point, it's probably not hard to argue it.
On paper, at least, on the Booker's paper, because he's the longest one too, is he not?
He is. He beat Kenny's.
Yep. So, anyway, on to match 2. This was very interesting. Christopher Daniels versus Stephen Amell of Arrow fame.
So, I could I don't know. I don't want to say it as in because Arrow fame never, or the other guy, not Christopher Daniels.
Stephen Amell.
Yeah, Stephen Amell. Like, it's hard to say it's a bad match because this was like his first ever like.
It was I think it was his first singles match. He'd done a tag in WWE with Cody.
Okay.
Or no, I think he had a match with Cody too. I think this was his third match. I think he'd done a tag and a singles with Cody. I'm trying to remember. I could be wrong. So this was his second or third match ever. At least in front of people.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like it's hard to say it's a bad match, but you can tell where he was just so green still.
He was very stiff, and I don't mean like hitting hard. I mean he was rigid, which it makes sense.
In my opinion, it worst match of the night. In my opinion, but that's only because how green he was.
I would agree with that. So some of my notes: Stephen Amell is a freak athlete. For how much he had done previous, I think considering how much training he had or how little training he had done, it was very good. You would know a little bit more about that than I would. The one frustrating thing about watching All In now is I don't know what it was. They had the crowd mics turned way down. Because I'm telling you, there was not a quiet moment in this show, and you can barely hear it on the feed, which was a real shame because people were losing their minds. My section, you can kind of hear it, but my section started chanting Broken Arrow when he went through the table. It was way louder in person. People were chanting DCU. And, people were chanting arrow, arrow. Crowd was into it. And I think Stephen Amell deserves a lot of credit for having the guts to do that on a show like that.
What's even better is he got put with a guy like Christopher Daniels. Like,
Which that was definitely done on purpose. I don't think there was anybody better to run him through a singles match with of that length, because the one he did with Cody would have been very short if it was a singles match. And I remember the tag, he didn't do a lot. There wasn't a lot of wrestling done on his part. But yeah, and you can tell Daniels is leading the whole thing. But as far as what was presented, they told a story in the ring. Christopher Daniels was like, who does this guy think he is? I've been doing this for 20 years, and you think you can just come in my domain? That was the story.
Yeah, exactly.
And rightfully so. Daniels wins, but at the end, they shake hands, give credit where credit's due. It's the only way that match could have ended.
Exactly. I mean, it was short, sweet, to the point.
Yep.
It got the story over.
Yep. Told the story. Speaking of stories, this is a really funny story. So the next match was a women's four-way match. Now, I can't remember if they said this, but I can't remember if they said this on TV, but I was confused when this match happened because they said it was elimination. Like in the arena, they said it was elimination. It was not an elimination match.
I didn't know that.
I was gonna say I don't think they said it on TV, but I remember. Did they say it or was it on the program? I can't remember. But going in, everybody was like, "Cool, this is an elimination match." But then they announced the rules and were like, "Oh, it's not elimination." I don't remember. But the funny thing was, I heard the women's match was coming up, and I had to pee, so I was like, "Cool, I'll wait till Stephen Amell's match is over, and then I'll go to the bathroom." But I wanted to see the entrances because entrances are one of my favorite parts of wrestling. Mm-hmm. So we have Tessa Blanchard, and I was totally there for Tessa Blanchard. Chelsea Green, this was when she was doing her hot mess gimmick. Mm-hmm. Hey, Hakeem. Evening, guys. Before that match, I had no idea who Christopher was, but turned me into a fan right after. Yeah, totally. If you hadn't seen Christopher Daniels before, basically after you watch one of his matches, you become a fan of Christopher Daniels.
Even when he was under a mask as a what was his name?
Suicide.
No, not Suicide. When he was doing his New Japan or his when he was fired from TNA.
Yeah, that was Suicide.
The noodle guy.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Austin Aries. He was Suicide.
Yeah.
Well, Christopher Daniels did wrestle as Suicide, but when he was unmasked, it was that duty was shared.
What was his name?
I can't remember. But anyway, so this is when Chelsea Green was doing her hot mess gimmick. And then also Madison Rayne, and I think Britt Baker had wrestled a little bit for Ring of Honor, but she was still very new, and she was in this match. So I have to pee. So, okay, cool. They're in the ring. The match starts. I go, and then there's a short line for the bathroom, but it's not too bad. But then I start hearing the crowd going nuts. And I'm like, oh, shit, is this good? And then they have monitors out in the hall, so I'm watching the match as I'm waiting in line for the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, shit, this is good. So I'm like trying to hurry up and pee so that I can get back to my seat. Thankfully, I didn't miss that much of it. But it's also worth noting that Britt came out to Adam Cole's then Ring of Honor music, which was cool. Do you remember anything of note in this match other than... I mean, it was good. It was great. I mean, honestly, for what it was pretty good. It was very good.
Nothing like nothing specific. Other than Chelsea Green worked like a main eventer at that time.
Yes, she did. Mm-hmm.
Like she worked like she was the top dog.
She did. That's a great way to put it, actually. And you know what's funny? She works largely the same now. There's a lot of similarities in what she was doing then and what she was doing now. Britt Baker obviously stepped her game up way more, but that just because of time. She wasn't really incorporating the dentist thing yet. I don't think. Now I can't remember. My memory's fading, but certainly not as much as she's leaning into it now. Tessa Blanchard was really, really big at this time. Looked like $1 million. I know some stuff came out on social media about her after that, but I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm only judging it based on what happened in the match. And then Madison Rayne, was Madison Rayne. Not to say she wasn't bad at all, but I mean, we'd seen Madison Rayne for a long time now because, I mean, she'd been wrestling in TNA for quite some time by this point.
Yeah.
But what was funny was the end of this match because Tessa Blanchard won, but I'm not going to lie, it kind of looked like a mistake. It looked like, I forget who she covered, but it looked like she kicked out and the ref missed it. Because right after, everybody does kind of seem a little confused.
Thinking about that, like, that makes sense now. Like, I do remember that part.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I'm pretty sure Tessa was supposed to win, but I think there might have been a miscue with the ref or something. Like maybe the match was supposed to go a little bit longer. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, and I never did get confirmation of that. But it wasn't just me because there were people talking in the audience. They were like, "I'm not sure. Was that a botch? Couldn't really tell." And there was just that weird pause where everybody was kind of like, "What happened?" But then everybody kind of, they go, "Oh," and the group hug and all that kumbaya bullshit. Anyway, so the next match should have been the main event, hands down. Both in what it was for, and crowd reaction, because let's be real. I was going to go to All In anyway, but this is the match that I showed up for. I am, of course, talking about Nick Aldis, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, versus Cody, not Rhodes, for the NWA 10 pounds of gold. Now, there was a lot going on here. This is when Nick Aldis almost not single-handedly, but he'd held the NWA title for a while. He brought a lot of prestige back to it. Billy Corgan had purchased NWA, I think, 1 or 2 years prior to that, and was trying to resurrect the brand, and it was working. And a lot of that was due to how Nick Aldis was being portrayed as a champion. And they were doing like the 10 pounds of gold mini series on YouTube, which was phenomenal. I think it's still up. This whole thing just felt like classic wrestling. And I mean that in the best way. This felt like territory wrestling, honestly.
It did. It felt, it had that 80s style territory.
But early 80s, early 80s territory days, kind of like, down the Texas territory. It felt like that, and it was so good.
This was probably one of my favorite matches of the night.
It's one of my favorite matches, period, because not only this had the biggest fight feel, it's certainly in the top 5 as far as big fight feel of wrestling matches I've ever seen. It was the biggest fight on the card for sure, and the crowd reflected that. Just have some notes here. Should have been the main event. It had the best story. It was match of the night. Had the best psychology of any match of the night. Big fight feel. The crowd was a wall of sound through basically the whole thing. Like when they cheered Cody and booed Nick, it felt like you could feel the sound because it was coming. It was, like I said, it felt like a wall of sound. The place... I honestly believe that if Nick Aldis had won that match, the place would have rioted. That place they would have been throwing things. They would have been throwing chairs. It would have been bad. I honestly believe that. But yeah, I mean, this match was it was brutal. It gave us an idea of what we would see from Cody in the future. It was great. And honestly, I didn't mind the Brandy spot. And the way they played it, because Nick Aldis, this was so genius, because Nick Aldis was definitely the heel of the match, but he didn't go full on heel because if you don't remember, there's a spot where Aldis, I think, is going for an elbow, but he's going off the top rope. And Brandy jumps over Cody when Aldis is in midair. And the way he plays it is like, listen, I'm an asshole, but I didn't mean to do that. You know, it was so good. Like the whole match was great. Hard hitting. It felt like a Dusty Flair match, but kind of reversed a little bit because Aldis is bigger than Cody. But
I mean, yeah, I mean, you had Arn Anderson come out, you had DDP come out with him, you had
Aldis had a hell of an entourage too. That's what I mean. It felt like a big fight. It felt like the way they shot them coming to the ring too was very reminiscent to like boxing. Yeah. You know, everybody's got their, and that's what I mean. It all felt legit. Everybody who was there belonged. Like, it was fantastic. And everybody was on the edge of their seat because everybody kind of had a feeling that Cody was going to win, but they booked it just enough. And Nick Aldis is a believable champion. So you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe. It was as close to being a real fight as it could be. And that is when pro wrestling is perfect. Mm-hmm. When you know in your brain what's really going on, but you don't care because you turn your brain off, you suspend your disbelief, and what you're seeing is real for that moment.
Yeah. I mean, almost exactly what you said. Like in your head, you know this is fake, you know it's choreographed, but then there's like that slight feeling of, is this real?
Maybe. Because honestly, again, the Brandy spot, that place just booed him out of the building when he did that. And this is hilarious because like 2 years later, everyone would be like, we hate Brandy. Well, they didn't hate her when that happened. And I never really disliked Brandy. Sometimes what she was doing on TV, I was just kind of like, huh? But I never hated her. Like, yeah. But yeah, so obviously we saw Cody win, and what was the match in the moment of the night? The story was there. It was an homage. It paid tribute to Dusty without making it all about Dusty. It was very much about Cody. And yeah, everybody won. The NWA got more publicity because honestly, before this match, I didn't even know the NWA was... I knew it was around, but like, actually, no, I didn't know it was around. I didn't know it was active. So just win for everybody.
And yet we're still sitting here trying to see Cody finish the story.
We will. I wish they had gone more into this in the Cody documentary. And I understand it's a WWE production, but it's the NWA title. Like, come on. How many WWE Hall of Famers were also NWA World's Heavyweight Champions?
At least half of them.
Right, yeah, that's all I'm saying. But anyway, not to take away from actually, the next match was probably the best thing you could put after that match because it was so vastly different. We had a hardcore, I don't remember what they called it. I would say Hakeem again. I don't remember most of this all in, but this was a standout match. Oh yeah, if you're not going to watch the entire show, which I recommend you do, Tony Khan, you need to make this available. You own it now. Before you didn't own it, so I understood, but now you own it. Make it available.
Yeah, it's just
I would love a commemorative like Blu-ray release. I would buy it. Yeah. Like do a limited release, get a special thing, but come on, release it. So we had Hangman Page and Joey Janela in what was essentially a no-holds-barred match. Honestly, as somebody who doesn't love hardcore matches, this was pretty good.
Well, I think it was it was one of them Cracker Barrel hardcore matches or something.
They used so I'll give credit where credit's due. They used the barrel.
Yeah.
I think it was a Cracker Barrel hardcore match, actually, now that you say that. They incorporated the ongoing being the Elite storyline with Joey Ryan, which at the time I found funny, but in hindsight, it was really stupid.
Yeah. I seen it, I'm like, why?
Yeah. But I definitely popped for the barrel, not going to lie. But I will say, even though the story was stupid, they still incorporated it into the match in a way that For what they were doing, it made sense. And many of us got to see our first look at Penelope Ford.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, which honestly, she impressed me then. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I had never seen her before, but then when she showed up in AEW, I was like, okay, yeah, that jives. I see that.
What got me was the carrying Hangman Page with all the penises carrying them out.
Who won this match? Hangman. Yeah, Hangman won, but then yeah, and again, that's another moment where at the time I thought it was hilarious. Watching it again, I'm kind of like, there's kids here.
Yeah, kind of broke a little bit of boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know that having about a dozen or so inflatable penises mimicking the Druids was really the way to go.
Like the more I think about it, it's starting to get funny to me again. But it's like,
oh no, don't get me wrong, it's funny, but I don't know that it was. I mean, it certainly wasn't appropriate, but I don't know how many kids were there, but there were kids there. It was like 98% 18 to 35 men, which is hilarious because when I got there, because I left work and drove to Chicago. So by the time I got there, I was hungry as hell, but I stopped at, there's a little like strip mall right outside that arena. And it's just like a sea of black Bullet Club t-shirts in various forms.
Didn't you go to you with this one?
No, not to All In.
I thought he went to it also, but he went with somebody else.
Was he at All In? I can't remember. He didn't go with me.
I think that's what happened. I think he went with somebody else, and you went also.
Maybe. I think the first time I knew that he and I were at the same show in different places was an AEW show, and then the next year we went to an AEW show together. But no, you know what? I think he was at All In, but I didn't find that out until way after. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. But yeah, so that moment didn't age particularly well, especially after what Joey Ryan's entire gimmick didn't age well because of what came out.
And now he works at Disney World.
Does he really?
Last I heard, it's Disney World or Disneyland.
Hang on.
The last I knew, that's where he was working.
Oh man.
I'm about 90% sure. I'm pretty sure it was him that was working at Disney World or Disneyland at one point.
Hang on, we're gonna look this up. Bear with me, folks. Oh. Ooh. This is bad. In March 2021, a poster for an event called Wrestling for Women Charity circulated online featuring Ryan and several other wrestlers. It was subsequently revealed that Ryan's bar wrestling was involved with promoting the event. All Elite Wrestling promoter Tony Khan stated that he would not allow AEW talent to appear if Ryan was involved. A Twitter account for the event stated that Fight TV would be airing the show. However, the organization said on Twitter that they were not carrying the event. It subsequently issued an apology, canceled the event, and deleted the account. Ryan denied that he was, quote, trying to come back to wrestling and said he had been asked to, quote, wrestle a good friend as a way to go out and gain some closure. Ooh. I'm trying to see what he's doing.
But a little update on our Forbidden Door that we created a few months ago.
Yeah, we're gonna have to rebook that.
Yeah, we are. But good thing I didn't get too far into it. But now I have a desktop.
Ooh,
and
okay.
Now I can record it through OBS that way.
Oh, perfect. I don't know if he works at Disney now. We need to internet. I need your help because I don't want to waste time. Because I don't know what time you have to go, but
50. So I got about 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, no, we can finish this, so we'll move on. The next match, I don't have much to say about. Flip Gordon faces Jay Lethal for the ROH title.
Jay Lethal.
I was going to say, except it's not Jay Lethal. It's Black Machismo.
My favorite wrestler of all time. Yeah.
I like Black Machismo, but this was a championship match.
Okay, one thing I didn't like about it is how it would had to be. So in the promo before where we got the Black Machismo, they tapped on his shoulder and handed him the glasses, and that's how he turned into it.
Okay,
But
so the thing of it,
real quick.
they were doing a lot of these storylines on being the elite. They'd been doing that to Jay Lethal for a few months. So it was a thing, but only if you were watching Being the Elite, people would tap him on the shoulder and he'd go, and he'd turn into Black Machismo. And to turn it off, you'd have to tap him on the shoulder again.
Okay, so they did it during the match, but he was still acting like Black Machismo.
Yeah, I know. It was dumb. And I actually said this on paper should have been a great match, but because they had to do the funny crap, it turned it into a.
It wasn't a bad match.
It wasn't a bad match, but it could have been better if it had been played straight.
Get out of here.
You get out of here, brother. Yeah.
Okay, brother, I'll just waltz my way into work and clock in.
But anyway, so Jay Lethal wins the match and retains the Ring of Honor title. I got a lot of notes for the next match, so I'll breeze through them. We saw Pentagon Jr. versus Kenny Omega, which at the time was a dream match that we never thought was going to happen.
Okay, watching that match yesterday and seeing Kenny Omega, and that was my first experience to Kenny Omega and Pentagon Jr. Well, not so much Pentagon Jr. because I'd seen him a couple of times in Lucha Underground. In my opinion, when I first seen Kenny Omega, it reminded me of a mid-90s Triple H where he wore the tights.
Yeah, he was wearing those pleather pants for a while in New Japan.
Yeah. And I'm like, is that Triple H? I had to double think a couple times.
So anyway, my notes. Penta felt so much cooler back then.
Yes.
Kenny was so much cooler in 2018 because
Back
New Japan. Well, back when New Japan told him what to say, at least to a certain extent. And I said, remember when this seemed impossible, and now we're sick of it.
Yeah, because at one point it was like every week we've seen them wrestling each other for AEW, and I'm like, are you done yet?
Yeah. And then I said, is it just me, or has Kenny lost a step? And we actually recently found out that he kind of did, because he had, what is his injury? What's his deal? Because I saw that he was in the hospital.
I'm not sure. I knew he was having back issues.
Yeah, so I
don't know if it came out of what was wrong or why he was in the hospital, because I knew it was him, and the last thing I'd seen before he was in the hospital, it was a promo in the ring. It was him and Chris Jericho, and it was Big Bill and Ricky Starks, and Kenny was talking about Big Bill being soft and saying that Ricky Starks was a rundown version of Enzo Amore.
Oh God! But so yes, since the time I made this note, now Kenny has in fact lost a step. Hopefully he gets it back, because I remember Kenny 2016 to 2018. I mean, I'll be frank, nobody was better.
Yeah.
I mean, this is once in a generation talent, and he's still good, but it just seems like he lost a step. I hope he gets it back. And the fact, if it is his back, that explains a lot.
Well, this match was a tie for match of the night for me, to be honest.
As far as in ring, let's see. This is the weirdest thing, especially considering who's in the match. They actually try to keep it in the ring.
They did.
They do some outside stuff, but I mean, for the most part, they're trying to keep it in the ring. And I love that Pentagon blocked the Terminator dive. I was like, oh my God, it's like somebody realized, wait, he's hitting the ropes and running towards me. I should probably stop that.
Or at least move like Samoa Joe does.
Yeah, I know, right? Which it's funny because A lot of people find that move funny. I actually find it annoying. It's like, okay, I understand why he does it, but you would think that people would learn to stop doing it if you can just take 2 steps and walk out of the way.
That's where it kind of like it really runs the line of like you could just move out of the way on a dive. Why do you got to stand there? So it's like, what do you do?
Well, and then the guy in AEW who did this on his way down, everybody's playing it for laughs. I'm like, don't ever book him again. Don't ever book him again. You killed it. Because now it's a joke even when it comes to Samoa Joe.
Yep.
One of your most legitimate wrestlers on your roster is now part of the joke. Anyway, Kenny was phenomenal at that time. I didn't think anyone was better because they weren't. But the bumps he took, I said I don't think he would be at the level for too much longer. Yeah, that makes sense. And it was when he had to leave AEW for a bit when he was off, it was because those lingering injuries were getting dealt with. But apparently there was a little bit more. But Kenny wins the match. But then we got definitely the surprise in the night. So we have to go back in time again. So this was after Jericho left WWE because he was tired of doing the same old thing. Mm-hmm. Now, he had said for years and years and years that he wouldn't wrestle for anybody except Vince McMahon. But then he gets offered New Japan, and he said, well, it's Japan. And he even not asked permission, but he cleared it with McMahon, say like, hey, no hard feelings, right? He said, yeah, go make money in Japan. But he repeatedly said he would never, ever wrestle for anyone but Vince McMahon in the United States. Or I think even in North America, I think he said. So for Jericho to actually show up, he did not wrestle.
Yeah, I was about to say, he did technically wrestle at that point.
No, but I think he'd even gone so far as to say he wouldn't appear on television for anybody else. I can't remember. But, and actually they do a really good job of the disguise because I noticed the tattoo, but I mean, the outfit looked basically the same. So it wasn't immediately clear until you started kind of looking that it wasn't Pentagon. Like they did a decent job of it, but Chris Jericho was there to help sell his cruise, which he had a match with Kenny Omega at. That place exploded. Nobody could believe what we saw. We could not believe that Chris Jericho was actually there.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that's how it started at first. So
it
was definitely a surprise to me.
And then he did the code breaker. I'm like, oh my God, it is Chris Jericho. But yeah, so that was definitely the surprise in the night. The next match, I didn't like it at the time, and now I especially didn't like it. Marty Scurll versus Okada. The backstory with this is Marty Scurll was a junior heavyweight in New Japan, which New Japan actually has strict weight classes. So the whole bit was, in order to face Okada at All In, he would have to get up to 205 pounds. So they were doing skits where he was like eating donuts and, just trying to gain weight. And Okada was essentially bullying him. The backstage bit was dumb. But Marty Scurll did have a great entrance back in the day. Everybody did whoop whoop. It was very good back in the day.
I like the plague doctor's mask.
Yeah. Love it. That was part of the end with the umbrella, and it all made sense. I will say Marty Scurll didn't really do anything for me until he joined Bullet Club. But hey, that's what Bullet Club was doing back in the day. It was elevating people that were good, but just needed that push of recognition.
Back in the day, like I knew Marty Scurll before then.
Yeah, Party Marty.
Yeah. So I would have loved to seen him in NXT at the time with that gimmick.
Yeah, you know what? Party Marty would have worked in NXT.
Oh, I'm talking about with the plague doctor's mask and stuff.
Oh, the villain?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have. See, this is the thing. I liked Marty Scurll. And Marty Scurll was doing the sort of straight man wrestler bit before a lot of other people were doing it. Like, it was before Tyler Bate. It was before Pete Dunne. At least that I'd seen. They might have been doing. I think that was the resurgence of that UK strong style, now that I think about it. But I mean, it worked. It was a great That's why it was so great in New Japan, because this was a guy who he didn't do flips. He just didn't. He could, but he just didn't. Instead, he just break your finger. Which this was when Okada was going through his pants phase. And we're glad that ended. Okada's a Trunks guy. It was weird. It was one of the weakest matches, but at least it had some build up. And I always, like I said, I always liked that Marty Scurll didn't do flips. I will say this match was too long, and I love the Pete Dunne finger spots. I hate the Marty Scurll finger spots because it doesn't make any sense. Because all he does, he breaks your fingers, and then everybody acts like they have fully functional fingers. And plus, it's a really easy thing to do. Grab two people's fingers, and then you slam your palms together. So, haha, it's easy. It's not good. But at least it was different.
Hey, I love doing that spot. Dang it!
Do you do that spot?
I do. I do the.
Did I just ruin the magic for everyone? Sorry. You actually break their fingers, though.
Yeah, I do it.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Hakeem had shocked it was Chris, and he forgot all about Marty. I kind of forgot all about Marty. I'm like, oh, yeah, Marty. Cool. But, yeah, this match was way too long. And I think it was actually the reason the main event got cut short. So, I blame Marty Scurll. I can't be mad at Okada because he's amazing. But so then we are with 9 minutes to spare. First, I have to tell you about our sponsor. It's really annoying when things get cut short, especially your, refreshing beauty sleep, which has been happening to me for the past week. So thankfully, I know someone that can help me with that. And I'm going to share that with you people in case, Brian, do you ever find yourself extremely tired but still unable to fall asleep?
Every single day.
Okay, well, what if I told you there was a product that was all natural, completely organic, and that could help you with your sleep issues and doesn't make you groggy in the morning?
A product that's all natural?
Yes.
Take my money.
Well, if you go to OMG CBD in Columbus, Indiana, they will take your money, but they'll also give you something for it. So, it's a win-win. If you're weird like me, I've never actually partaken in any THC, cannabinoids, or synthetic THC products, only CBD. However, they have CBD only, so it's a CBD melatonin gummy combination, and it's perfect because the melatonin puts you to sleep and the CBD keeps you asleep.
Well, by golly, I'm going to have to go buy me some.
And I have a strategy. So it says take 1 to 2. If you got to work the next day, take 1. If you don't have to work the next day, take 2. You will sleep like a rock if you take 2, but it's a good sleep. You don't wake up feeling groggy or anything. It's phenomenal. And I'm actually out of my gummies now, so I need to talk to Sasha, the owner, and get me some more. But they have all kinds of products, including Delta 8, Delta 9, a bunch of other natural remedies for all of your issues, including, if that's an issue for you, they got something for that. It's actually one of their top sellers because apparently it works. So yeah, OMG CBD Columbus, Indiana. There's a link to their Facebook page in the description where you can message them directly with any questions you may have. Check them out. They're a fantastic small business and they will give you the best products that you can get. Anyhow, on to the main event. The Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi making up the Golden Elite versus Rey's Phoenix and Mysterio. See what I did there? And Bandito, which this is actually the first time I'd ever seen Bandito, and I was impressed. Let's see my notes. First, I can't read my handwriting. Oh, the first lower third with the names of people was wrong because it said Rey Mysterio, but Rey Phoenix came out.
I did see that, and I thought that was interesting. I really liked Rey's gear, the Wolverine gear.
Yeah, but it was too small for him. It was a little tight.
I mean, it was tight, but I think I really liked the shoulder pad work on it.
I did like the shoulder pads. That was sick. I did like the shoulder pads, but that was a little tight.
A little tight.
Now, this match was cut short. The Bucks even made a joke about it after the pay-per-view went off air. They actually said, boy, we had to beat those guys really fast because we were almost out of time. And that's kind of my issue with what I liked about the Young Bucks before, and now I really dislike about them is how they have to make a joke out of everything. See, before they didn't make a joke out of everything. They could be funny, but when it was time to be serious, they were serious.
Yeah. It like you said, like they do that stuff now, so they try to make a joke out of everything.
Out of everything, though.
Like when you're they're what, producers, or what are they?
Executive vice presidents, producers, yeah.
Yeah, and the wrestlers, like, at this point, you should just, in my opinion, and I'm going to sound like a dick, screw the fuck up. Screw up.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing of it is, in the early days of AEW, they had great rivalries. That whole, which I thought this was so dumb at the time when they first did it, when Hangman Page and Kenny Omega were a tag team. Oh my God, their match with the Bucks when they won the titles is one of my favorite matches of all time.
Hey, here's one of my things, and this is going to go to like AEW now. In my opinion, like, because AEW has been in like, they've had some good things, but they're still kind of in like a downward spiral in a way. In my opinion, they're definitely not what it was 2 years ago.
Not even close.
In my opinion, Kenny and the Young Bucks needs to take 6 months away from doing anything in ring.
I agree.
Focus straight on the producing, the executive stuff, and get them back on track.
Well, and not only that, they need a booker. Somebody who actually just knows how to do that. Or I never thought I'd say maybe they need a writing team.
It makes me want
right. They need a booking team is what they need. And oh my God, you've got Arn Anderson, you've got access to Tully Blanchard, you've got Jake Roberts, who, I'm sorry, if anybody needs promo help, you got the Jake the Snake on speed dial. Like, come on, you got Dustin Rhodes. You have all the Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, people with 20 plus, minimum of 20 years experience plus some. You've got people who have been wrestling longer than some of the wrestlers have been alive. And they're all already there. Does Hakeem say, I watch Rampage to fall asleep, but wouldn't mind an all-natural product like OMG CBT. Yeah, I totally agree. They have so much talent, but not using it right. And that's why it's so frustrating trying to be an AEW fan, because you know, it's like you've got all the ingredients to make the perfect cake, but it still comes out not cake. And you don't understand why, because you follow all the instructions and you have all the right ingredients, but the oven doesn't work properly. It's not cooking right. But anyway, I've got good show. I already said the pay-per-view audio doesn't do it justice. But yeah, if you haven't watched All In, I highly recommend that you do. It may or may not. Actually, I don't think it's available on YouTube anymore. I think I downloaded it at the perfect time. Yeah, so they're nipping that, because I actually uploaded it privately so that I could share it with you, and they blocked it as a private link too.
Did they?
Yeah, copyright block. Yep. So you and I may very well have the only copy of All In. And here's the thing. I don't condone piracy, but it's not available. Tony Khan, make it available. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I will give you my money to get a copy of it.
But I've got to go in. I'm going to share my last thoughts, and then I will talk to you guys in 2 weeks. All around, I like the show.
Yeah,
it brought me to a lot of new people, like people that I see now that I seen then. Like, I wish I could have seen it then, so I could have watched them grow from what it was there to now. It was, in my opinion, the WrestleMania of indie show.
Hands down. And for me, and I'm a bit biased here, but when I was there, I went because I knew it was going to be history, and I wanted to be there live for it. And I'm so glad I was, because I will never forget it. I still have my ticket, And it's not framed now, but I'm going to frame it because I was on cloud nine, and I was just so happy that I was able to be there, and I wouldn't have traded it for really much of anything. So it's
But
but
I'm out of here, guys.
oh yeah,
I
you gotta go.
Yep. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Alrighty, well, I'll lead us out real quick. Thank you for watching Down the Middle. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all our social medias. And be sure to check out OMG CBD and the rest of the shows on the Arte Podcast Network. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Hopefully, we'll be talking about the Iron Claw. Oh, hang on. Thanks, Hakeem. See you in 2 weeks on Thursday. And like I said, we will see you again 2 weeks on Thursday. Remember, Thursday's the new night for Down the Middle.